Hello my friends, this is Mark Graham with the Source of Story YouTube channel and Runes for Writers. In this video, I want to explore just who the Runes for Writers system is for and how does it work. Well, I believe that any storyteller in any medium can make use of the Runes for Writers system. My particular medium is long-form fiction, novel writing primarily. But I believe that the system can be used for writers in any length and any style of creative writing, whether it be screenplays, stage plays, short stories, novellas, and even outside of fiction writing, creative nonfiction, visual arts, dance, choreography, even business writing. Anyone who has a story to tell, who is reaching into the creative realms to bring back a tale, a story, a vision that hasn't been seen before. This is what Runes for Writers will help you do. Now, a caveat to this. We get into a bit of esoterica as we describe the system and how it works. So there is a requirement on your part to have an open mind, to accept that perhaps you don't know everything there is to know about the creative process. I know I certainly don't. I've simply stumbled upon this great tool using ancient techniques and learning to apply them to modern storytelling. Which leads us to the question of how exactly does this system work? Well, to understand that, I need you to go with me here for a little bit. I may get a little into the deep end of esoterica, but stick with me and we'll get through this together. So I believe that there is a source of story. This source resides outside of the human brain, beyond the human mind, in fact. It exists independently of the storyteller. Now, Plato called this the realm of ideas. This was a place where the idea, for example, of an oak tree had its origins, and that the oak trees that we see we're simply drawing material from our physical world and accreting that, bringing it together and growing within this matrix that came from this realm of ideas, where the ideal, the primeval oak tree, the template for all oak trees to come, resided in this non-physical realm. Now, Jung also talks about this to some degree in his collective unconscious. The idea that there are experiences, there are realities, there are understandings residing outside of the individual that we have access to through our subconscious levels of the mind. And even Joseph Campbell touches on this aspect of creativity when he speaks of the monomyth and the idea that the structure of story among cultures separated by vast quantities of time and space are very, very similar. Now, this could be a genetic thing, and some could point to areas of the brain that appear to spark creative inspirations. My contention is that the brain is simply the receptor, the physical receptor for these non-physical ideas. So when you, as a storyteller, again, you could be a novelist, you could be a business proposal writer, a grant writer, a choreographer, whatever your medium and your field of creative endeavors is, when you create, you are reaching into this non-physical realm with your subconscious mind and drawing back from that realm your story. Now, of course, you are not simply a medium, you're not a channel necessarily, and you are a partner in the creation of the story. The story in itself is beyond language. It is beyond movement, it is beyond symbol, it's beyond anything of the physical world. It is simply the abstract notion of the story. And in order for that story to be accessible and communicable to other people, that is where the artist comes in. So you as the artist receive the story, translate that into language, into motion, into some vehicle through which the story can be conveyed to your audience, to other human beings. So it's a vital partnership. I certainly don't want to diminish the individual, the creative, and I don't want to diminish the role of the brain, of the mind, of the consciousness in bringing that story to life. I tend to use the language of the left brain and the right brain. And while this is not in 100% accurate or precise, different portions of the brain cooperate. They pick up tasks from the other side of the brain. If there's damage, some people simply, their brain formation is different than the norm. And that's fine. Before shortcut language, I will refer to the left side of the brain as the editor, as the critic sometimes. The left side of the brain is where linear thought process generally resides. It is structure. It is syntax. The left side of the brain is responsible for putting words together in an order that can be understood and rationalized from the writer, the storyteller, to the audience. It is that framework and those rules of language that the left brain is perfectly suited for. And the right brain is more adapted to creative processing, to nonlinear thought, to abstract notions. And I contend that it is the right side of the brain that has a deeper connection to this source of story. So, how does that work with the Runes for Writers system? When you're blocked as a writer, I believe this comes from, I'll call it left brain paralysis. Essentially, you've come to the end of your cognitive ability to push through a story problem. Maybe you've written yourself into a corner. Maybe you're struggling between different choices in your story process. Perhaps you have a number of options that your hero can take, or different directions that the story can go in, and you just are stuck and unable to choose. Another possibility is that you're writing the wrong story, that a part of you has rationalized that this is a story that you can tell, or that this is a story for which there's a huge market and you can cash in on that, whether or not that is in alignment with your soul desire. And that will be the topic of a later video. Another possibility is that you're telling the right story and that resistance has simply crept in to keep you from getting too far. That resistance that is your fear of success, that couches in fear of failure, but is truly a fear of success. So Stephen Pressfield talks about resistance quite a bit, and I highly recommend his book, The War of Art, if you are interested in learning a bit more about this psychological phenomenon called resistance. And that's a nutshell version of why I believe writers and creatives become blocked. Telling the wrong story, resistance, or left brain paralysis. That you've tried to analyze your story, to order it, to rationalize it, and it's just not working now. So, how does Runes for Writers help in this? Well, the runes are very specific in their abstract nature. A book came out several years ago called Tarot for Writers. I have a copy. It's a wonderful book. And the author did a great job of providing a process to use the tarot cards as a creative boost, as a means of troubleshooting story problems, as a means of developing your story. Sounding familiar, yes? So I certainly don't diminish it. I've used it to great success. I know many others who have used the tarot for storytelling as well, and stand 100% behind it. I love the notion of it. I believe that the runes have a slight advantage over the tarot cards by virtue of their more abstract nature. Now, in the tarot cards, you're presented with a complete scene, a visual image of people, of landscapes, of weapons and tools and what have you. So these really bring the left and right brains together in, I see the image, how do I work that into a story? And there's value in that. I don't wish to diminish that. With the runes, because they are so abstract, the left brain is really distracted by trying to classify the rune. What is this rune's name? What is its sound value? Where does it fall in the eights in the grid of the runes or on the rune wheel, which we'll also get into later? What direction is it associated with? Which planet or deity or colors or elements? All these different things that the left brain tries to classify the rune. And while the left brain is distracted doing what it does best, that analytical process, the right brain is now free to dive back into that abstract realm of what does it mean? How does this play out? And once you do that, then that right brain can also contact the story where it resides in that creative realm, in that source of story. It's similar in function if you've ever misplaced your car keys, lost your wallet. You have a story idea that you're chewing on and you're just not making any progress as you're trying to work on it. And then you're in the shower, or you're driving down the road, or walking the dog, what have you. You're engaged in a completely separate activity. Your left brain has now been distracted from the problem, is no longer trying to rationalize a solution, and your right brain is free to access your subconscious, which knows exactly where your keys are, where your wallet is, or what a great next step in your story will be. So that's where the system has its strength and has its value. We distract the left brain, let the right brain connect to the subconscious realms, and free up that connection to the creativity, to that source of story. Now, on a psychological level, there is power in the shuffle of the cards. Your subconsciousness works very mysteriously sometimes. It can work as a power seemingly outside of yourself. And as you shuffle the cards, as you deal the cards and lay them out, your subconscious is working with the story itself to stack the deck and to present the story that wants to be told through you. Now, that's getting pretty esoteric, and you don't have to believe all of this. If you can simply accept that intellectual processes alone will not write your story, you're well on your way to being able to master the Runes for Writers system and to use it successfully to craft your own stories. So that's a very brief explanation of who the Runes for Writers system is for and how it works. We may dive a little bit deeper into the idea of the source of story, into how the various levels of consciousness work together and apart to bring story into existence, into consciousness. But this is just a very surface level, a cursory explanation of the theory behind this. I hope it's been useful. I hope I haven't scared you away. So if you're still with me, thank you. It's going to get even better. Please, if you haven't already, sign up to support the Runes for Writers program on Indiegogo. We have about 7 weeks left as of the time of this recording. There are some great perks available. We are going to include the card set, which you've seen, tiles, the dice. I'm actually getting ready to order the full run of the dice, so those will be here in a few weeks if all goes well. So take a look. If you agree that the Runes for Writers system can be a useful tool for creatives in any medium, if you want to see this brought to market, if you want to see more and more people have access to this tool, then please support the Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign and help me bring this into being. I'll do it with or without you, but I would appreciate your help. So, again, this is Mark Graham with the Source of Story YouTube channel and Runes for Writers. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to hearing your story through the runes.